Good morning. Welcome to today's Conversation Cafe. I'm Marion and I'm a teacher at Everyday English. Lovely to see you this morning. I hope you're all well. So, I'm afraid that today it looks like it might just be me. So, please, if you have any comments or want to join in with the conversation, please feel free to join us and we will share your comments and see where we go with the conversation. So I thought I would start today's conversation cafe with my own experience of having the vaccination for COVID-19. So I'm sure some of you are worried about having the vaccination if you haven't had it already. And I'm sure that some of you are also worried about some of the information in the news recently about specifically the AstraZeneca COVID vaccination. So I should tell you that I had the AstraZeneca vaccination and I had it I had it happily. I don't mind having it at all because, as far as I'm concerned, any vaccination is better than no vaccination. And the problems that were being talked about in the news about the AstraZeneca COVID vaccine have been mainly proven to not be the problems that people were saying they were. So I think, hopefully, the news is changing that information, and we should all feel better very soon. But for me, having the vaccination is my next step to freedom. My next step to being able to see the members of my family that I haven't seen for a very long time. It's my next step as part of the community to making sure that the COVID virus does not control our lives again in the way that it has over the past 1.5 years. So it's really important to me. And it's really important to me that as many other people as possible take this vaccination. In fact, I would like everybody to take this vaccination. So, what happened with me was that I got a phone call from my doctors, and they said, "Would you like to have your vaccination tomorrow?" And I said, "Yes, I would." It was a local surgery, so it was no problem for me to go there. When I got there were a lot of volunteers helping, showing people where to go, giving you information that you needed, and generally making sure that everybody was happy and that they weren't nervous, and making sure that everybody got in at the right time and that all the information was correct. So before I got into the surgery, there was something like 5 volunteers all there to help me with any problems I might have, which was very reassuring. Reassuring means I felt better. When I got there and I'd given my information, I was taken to a doctor's room and they asked me which arm I would like my injection in, because it's good to have it in the arm you don't use so much. So if you're right-handed, have it in your left arm. And if you're left-handed, have it in your right arm. Because afterwards, it does ache a little bit. So you really kind of want that to be in the arm you don't use so much. When that happened, they then asked me some questions about my health to check that I could take the vaccination. So because it was AstraZeneca and there are some very few problems with blood clotting and blood thinning that have been talked about, which I will talk about in a minute, they checked if I had any problems with that already, and I don't. And they also asked me if I was happy to have the AstraZeneca vaccine, and I said I was. And the reason I said I was is that AstraZeneca vaccine has so far been connected with, I think, 37 cases of blood clotting or blood thinning. That is in 17 million vaccinations. Another statistic, so a statistic is a range of numbers that helps us understand things that we need to know, is that more people than that get blood clotting or blood thinning problems anyway. And COVID, the virus, can actually cause problems with blood thinning or blood clotting. So it has been agreed that there is no link between the AstraZeneca COVID vaccination and a greater chance of problems with blood clotting or blood thinning. So I was perfectly happy to have the vaccination. There was a nurse present and a doctor to give me the vaccination. The nurse talked to me while the doctor gave me the vaccination. It took about 30 seconds. I didn't notice the needle going in. It was very easy. One tip is to hold your arm in a very relaxed way. So even if you're quite nervous, relax. Let your arm relax, because that is better for it will help you not feel so much pain afterwards. After that, I got a sticker to tell me that I got my COVID vaccination. And that was it. I left. So all in all, the whole thing, I didn't have to queue. I didn't have to wait. The whole thing maybe took me 10 minutes. So it wasn't inconvenient. It wasn't difficult. It wasn't scary. And I feel like I've done the safe thing. So since then, for the rest of the day on Thursday, I felt fine. On Friday, I woke up with a headache. And for the rest of Friday, I did feel like I had flu. So I didn't feel too well, but I felt like I had flu and I was tired and my body ached and my head ached. It wasn't very nice, but I had an early night last night and I have woken up this morning and I'm feeling a lot better. The point with that is that this shows that my body is doing all the right things. The reason I feel that way is because the immune system in my body is fighting the element of the virus in the vaccination and showing that it can and practicing doing so. So therefore, the fact that I felt a bit ill is actually a very good sign that my body does all the right things when it is in contact with the coronavirus. So all in all, it hasn't been inconvenient. It hasn't been upsetting. I didn't find it scary. And now I feel like I am on my next step towards a world where we don't have to worry so much about coronavirus anymore. And all those things that we look forward to and we've almost forgotten how good they feel. Hugging our friends, spending times in large groups of people, enjoying their company, seeing our elderly relatives, they are all that bit more available to us. Our time will come. So I can only say to you, please, if you haven't taken the vaccination and you get the opportunity to do so, do take it. It is for your good. It's for all of our good. And because some people say that there is a problem, that is not a good enough reason not to do it. All of the vaccinations have been created by a huge team of talented, skilled, clever scientists and doctors who do know what they're doing. They will not make us do something that will make us ill or that will affect us in the future. There's also been a huge amount of money across the world spent on creating this. In a way, it has been a really lovely global effort. So in a way, it has been good to see the whole world addressing a problem together. Our governments, our health organizations. Yeah, this has been quite interesting to see how people can actually interact and help and develop together regardless of where they're from, because this is an international problem. This is a problem for the human race, not for one country, not for one ethnic group. So this has actually taught us a lot about what we can do when we all work together and when we all see our needs as the same. Okay, so there is some information about I'd like to say to anybody who's listening is, if you have any questions, I'm here. You can send me a message now, or you can leave a message after the broadcast is finished, and I will happily answer any questions. It doesn't matter if you think it's a silly question or if you think you ought to know this and you feel embarrassed that you don't know this. I will answer any question about this COVID vaccine. So please do ask away. So the next thing that I want to talk to you about was last Sunday was a special day in the UK. Perhaps you know about it, perhaps you don't. Last Sunday was Mother's Day, or Mothering Sunday. So this happens every year. It doesn't have a set date. It always happens on a Sunday, and it usually happens around the middle of March, but it doesn't have the same date every year. So this day is, I'm a mother, and it's always very nice for us. Our children will come to see us, obviously, if they can, and we get to spend some time or talk on the phone to our children. And sometimes, when it's not COVID, there are nice family gatherings. Mother's Day is really important because I think that when we grow up and move on into the world, that is a wonderful thing. And we get busy. We have fun, we develop amazing friendships and projects and lives. And mothers are very, very happy to see that. So that is a wonderful thing. The busier and happier and more full your life is, the happier your mother is. But it is nice to have a day where our children, however busy, however happy, however full their lives are, get to just give us a call and say hello and tell us what they're doing. I'm quite lucky. My daughter lives away from home and she calls me often. So I don't need one day for it. But I think it's nice to have a day, really, for everybody to have a day. There's a Father's Day as well. There's a Grandparents' Day. But just to remind us, even things like Valentine's Day, where we think about our loved one, just to remind us, just a little nudge to say, remember, you have amazing people in your lives. So the other thing that happens on Mother's Day for me is that my mother isn't alive anymore. And I think perhaps after she died, sometimes Mother's Day was quite hard for the first year or the second year after she died. But since then, it helps me remember her and it helps me think about things I did with her. So it is a really nice day. And there's an interesting history behind Mothering Sunday. And it goes back to how different our culture was 100, 200 years ago in this country. In that time, there was very much a division, so a split, between the people who had and the people who didn't have. And I know that's still the case now. We still have this. And we're trying to change it. And it's not fixed yet. However, 100, 200 years ago, that was an accepted normal. So there were many families who had a lot of money and very big houses and managed to live lives where they didn't have to have a job and they didn't have to do anything at all, really. And those people were looked after by anything up to 100 other people who were their staff, who were their servants, who made sure that they had food, who made sure their houses were clean and their horses were well looked after, and that they never had to drive anywhere. They were always taken places. So this was an accepted normal in that society. And one thing that used to happen is that the people who worked in those big houses to look after those very rich people were expected to be there all the time. These days we have, hopefully, very fair employment laws. They could be improved. They can always be improved. But these days, the idea is that people get holidays, people get enough time off, people get weekends, people get shifts that are not too long, so they can actually get enough sleep and spend time with their families. And that wasn't the case in the past. So the people who worked in these big houses for these very wealthy people were expected to stay there. And Mothering Sunday was one of their very few days off. So they would actually get to leave on the Sunday morning and go to their homes and see their mothers or their families in general, just for the day. And they would have to be back at their work at the end of that day. So in a way, Mothering Sunday also shows how much we have moved on from those days, because it can't have been pleasant to stay away from your family for such a long time, especially as many of the people were still in their teens. They could be 14, 15, perhaps younger. So that was quite a tough life, and it would carry on that way for all of their lives. So while there is still a lot to be improved in our society and in our working lives, I think it's fair to say that we have moved on from those particular times, a little bit at least. So if you're a mother, or if you have a mother who you're thinking about, I hope that last Sunday you had a wonderful day. And fathers, if you're watching, your day is soon. So fathers can have their day in June. It's usually around the 3rd week in June. So again, it's on a Sunday. And again, it's not on a specific date. But your day is coming. So having said that, I'm going to let you carry on and have a wonderful Saturday. I am going to be talking about illnesses in my games session this afternoon. So one thing that comes to mind when we think about vaccinations, when we think about going to doctor's surgeries, for many of you, I'm sure, for many of you learners of English as a second language, is how hard it is to go to the doctors and explain how you feel when you don't have the right language. And doctors are busy, and you have something like 15 minutes to explain how you feel. And that can be really difficult, especially when you're nervous. So I'm going to look through some vocabulary for illness. And you can take notes, you can practice, but it's only a game, so you can have fun too. So also, if you have any questions about generally going to the doctor, how does that happen? What do you do? What are useful words when you go to the doctors? Leave me a message here and I will answer you. Have a lovely Saturday. Hopefully I will see you this afternoon at 1:30 for my game session. And I will be back here again next week at 10:30 for our Conversation Cafe. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.